Welcome to the Empowered Life. I am your friend, Ern Inyon. This podcast aims to inspire you to create the life that you want to live. If you are not yet a subscriber, be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is posted. Now let's go on with the show. Hi everyone. Today let's talk about freedom. Freedom can mean differently to everyone. But perhaps we can agree that freedom is not being imprisoned or enslaved. For centuries, billions have died in pursuit of freedom. Why are there wars? Because one country wants to control another. At this stage, or at this age, even with the advancement in technology and education, we are still pursuing freedom, and more people die every day. So why is freedom so elusive? I believe freedom is our default state. When we were born, we were free. When we were born, we only had two natural fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noise. But as we get older, we add to that list of fears. Now, we are afraid of all sorts of things. We are afraid of darkness, uncertainty, being alone, making mistakes, failure, death, etc. So why is this so? I have wondered, is this really what life's supposed to be? Or we just completely misunderstood life? So allow me to give you two important points. The first one is, freedom is not about enslaving someone. In the end, it is your life to live. Where you are in life is the sum of all the decisions you made. Again, this doesn't include toddlers. My son is 7 years old. Obviously, my wife and I are responsible to guide him to have a fruitful life. In other words, at this stage, we have a significant control over his decisions. He will reach a certain point that he will be on his own. And at that point, we have little to no control over his decisions. He is free to do whatever he wants. You see, no decent parent wants his child to be dependent on them all his life. If a person already in his 50s and still incapable of making decisions, then he is not free. He is a slave to whatever comes into his life. To decide on your own is freedom. Our son can consult us, of course, and we would be glad to offer our insights. But it will be his decision. I believe married couples should not be enslaving also. So what do I mean? We don't marry the person because he or she makes you laugh or happy. We don't marry the person because he is rich or he makes you feel secure. We don't marry the person because he makes you feel beautiful. If you expect your spouse to make you happy, to make you feel secure or beautiful or whatever, you are enslaving him. You are setting up your spouse for failure. Why? Because happiness, security, and beauty come from within. But since many people got this all wrong, they expect their husbands to make them happy. Sometimes he will make you feel happy. Sometimes he fails. And when he fails, he is a no-good spouse because, that is why you married him for. You feel like you haven't done anything good in your relationship. Have you felt like this before? The problem is not your spouse. The problem is you allowed your happiness to be dependent on someone. My wife and I have been married for 23 years. Just by thinking of her makes me happy. Just by looking at her, I am fulfilled beyond words. I am always the first one to wake up at home. And when I do, I just stare for a moment at her and my son while they are sleeping. And then I'll tell myself how blessed I am. She doesn't need to do anything to make me happy. Managing expectations is an important skill that all of us must have. My wife and I manage a small business and we have our roles and responsibilities to fulfill. Both of us expect from one another that we carry out these responsibilities. Expectations at work are valid expectations because you are paid to do whatever you need to do. But beyond work, sometimes we expect too much that we miss out the beauty of life. For example, after a concert, you can see that there are people who are completely enjoyed the show, while some are unhappy and disappointed. When the band U2 performed here in Manila, the press got mixed reactions from the audience. Some said it was the best concert ever, while some said it was a total disappointment. If you know the band, U2 is an activist because their leader Bono is a well-known activist. They play in concerts to raise money for various disaster reliefs, poverty in Africa, or so much more. I know people who watched the concert paid for their tickets and expected to be entertained. For those who were disappointed, probably they wanted them to play their favorite U2 song, but they didn't. Probably they expected Bono to jump into the sea of people and they would catch him and return him to the stage safely. But that also didn't happen because Bono is already in his 60s. When I was in college, I watched a Depeche Mode concert together with a friend. This is exactly how I behave. I was disappointed after the concert because they didn't sing my favorite song, Shake the Disease and Blasphemous Rumors and all their hits in the past. Because they just came out with a brand new album at that time, and I didn't know any song in that album. Expectation in this instance robs you from being wowed, from the miracle, from the blessing, from life's awesomeness. I was too focused on what I wanted that I totally missed out and appreciate the band's awesome creativity and talent. Now going back to marriage, many times we don't appreciate our spouse's initiative to prepare breakfast in the morning, to drive you to the grocery store or pay the bills because he or she does this so consistently that you expect them to do these things for you. These past months have been extra hard in our family. My mother-in-law has been diagnosed with cancer, so together with my father-in-law, both of them are in their 70s and they are living with us because all the doctors are here in Manila. Added to that, our business is still recovering from the pandemic. I can feel the burden on my wife Weng because she needs to take the lead and manages her mom's medical condition. He needs to talk to the doctors, arrange her labs, arrange her chemo sessions, buying the medicines, washing the cut from the surgery, watching her diet on top of that. She needs to do therapy to her students, check the reports and talk to parents, doing her task at PRC and more. I am in awe on how she does all these things while maintaining her composure. My wife is so efficient and consistent on handling situations like this that I am guilty sometimes of not appreciating the things she is doing, especially when she is so exhausted and tired. I know she doesn't need validation, but a little appreciation would definitely make her feel better. So to my wife, I am sorry for being insensitive to your needs. I can see that other members of the family also took the initiative to carry whatever load they can. For my part, the most that I can do is really to make myself available, to drive them to the hospital, to carry the wheelchair, bags and stuff, to wait for my mother-in-law during her chemo sessions, and to crack jokes sometimes to lighten up the mood. In another perspective, expectation enslaves you. Why? Because you're putting limits to what is out there. By expecting, you are not allowing God to surprise you. You think you know better. Remember, regardless of how knowledgeable you think you are, the things that you don't know is always greater than the things you know. Okay, the second point is freedom is not about pleasing people. If you are out there always wanting to please people, you are making a slave out of yourself. Freedom is about being who you are. By being yourself, some people will like it, some people won't. But the most important person to like you is you. So why do people do this to themselves? Because of insecurity. You need validation from other people to feel secure. When I decided to start this podcast, I know there will be people who will listen to my work and some won't. Particularly on self-help. Very, very few people listen to them. Some people support me, some people will not. And this includes my family and friends. But I don't take it against them. A lot of my relatives are not into podcasts, and topics like empowerment are not their cup of tea. Of course, I invite everyone, but I don't require anyone to listen to my podcast. Not even my wife and my brothers. If they listen, great. If they don't, it's fine. Our relationship is not anchored to whether they will support me or not. Of course, I wish, to be honest, I wish they would listen. But if they don't, it's okay. Of course, I will do some marketing to increase my audience. But I know not everyone will listen. Again, that should be okay. So, regardless what you do, you may have an online business, selling an insurance policy, or you have also a podcast or YouTube channel. If your relatives don't buy or don't listen, don't be disheartened. Again, do not expect, just do. I remember Brother Bo Sanchez, one of the most sought after preachers here, and my spiritual mentor and my financial mentor, shared that when he was starting his YouTube channel, the show was the preacher in blue jeans. He shared that when he was starting, he would get less than 100 views and 2 comments, and one would be amen. But he continued with it, improving his craft, kept on uploading those videos, and continued serving. Now, millions of people watch his videos, thousands react, make comments, and share his videos. So no matter how good you are, you can't please everyone. If Michael Jordan had doubters, if Mother Teresa had haters, if Jesus had detractors, so will you. So by accepting this reality, you will be more focused on working on your craft. I am out here to serve, and whoever needs my service, be it a relative or a stranger, I will serve. Thank you so much for listening, friends. Please rate and review this podcast and share it to your friends. Until next time, blessings always.